Boeing's 737 has been flying since the 1960s. It carried billions of passengers and became the backbone of global aviation. But here's the big question. What happens next? The 737 MAX faced controversy, delays, and grounding. Airbus is winning orders with the A320neo family. So what is Boeing's plan to replace its most important aircraft? Today, we'll dive into Boeing's future, the next generation design, challenges, and why the decision could define the future of commercial aviation for decades. When you think about Boeing, one aircraft instantly comes to mind: the 737. Introduced in the late 1960s, the 737 quickly became the workhorse of the skies. Airlines loved it because it was efficient, reliable, and perfectly sized for short and medium-haul routes. Passengers, even if they didn't realize it, were flying the 737 more than any other jet in the world. Over the decades, this aircraft evolved into multiple generations, each one keeping Boeing competitive in the single-aisle market. The original 737 100 and 200 were modest in size, carrying around 100 passengers. They weren't glamorous, but they were practical. As air travel exploded in the 1970s and 80s, Boeing upgraded the plane into the Classic series, the 300, 400, and 500, which offered more seats, better engines, and stronger efficiency. By this point, the 737 had become the backbone of airlines from Southwest in the US to Lufthansa in Europe. It was already clear, Boeing had struck gold. Then came the 737 Next Generation, or NG. This was the late 1990s redesign that stretched the family even further, seating up to 189 passengers and flying farther than ever. With the NG, Boeing dominated the skies. It was one of the most successful aircraft programs in history, selling thousands of units worldwide. If you flew anywhere between 2000 and 2015, chances are you were sitting in a 737 NG. But by the early 2010s, the aviation world started to shift. Airbus launched the A320neo, a re-engined version of its already popular A320 family. With new fuel-efficient engines, Airbus promised airlines a dramatic reduction in fuel burn. The single biggest operating cost for carriers. The orders flooded in. Boeing suddenly faced a crisis. Their best-selling jet was about to be outclassed. Boeing's answer was the 737 MAX, essentially a re-engineered NG with bigger, more efficient engines and aerodynamic tweaks. On paper, it was exactly what airlines wanted: fuel efficiency without the need for a brand new aircraft design, and at first it worked. The MAX attracted thousands of orders. But as we know today, it also brought Boeing into the darkest chapter of its modern history. Two fatal crashes, Lion Air Flight 610 in 2018 and Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 in 2019, exposed critical flaws in the MAX's design and in Boeing's rush to compete with Airbus. Regulators grounded the entire fleet worldwide, airlines canceled orders, and Boeing's reputation took a massive hit. What had once been the symbol of success became a cautionary tale of cost-cutting and mismanagement. Still, the numbers tell the story. The 737 remains the best-selling airliner ever, with over 11,000 delivered and thousands more on order. But the question is no longer about its past glory. The real question is, how much longer can Boeing stretch the 737 design? After more than 55 years of upgrades, is it finally time to retire the legendary jet and build something entirely new?
If Boeing's 737 was the king of the skies for decades, then Airbus has been the challenger who refused to give up. In the 1980s, when Airbus first launched the A320, it was seen as a risky newcomer. But by the 2000s, Airbus had turned the tables completely. The introduction of the A320neo, with its new engines and advanced aerodynamics, became a masterstroke. Airlines rushed to place orders because it offered double-digit fuel savings compared to older models, and those savings could make or break an airline's bottom line. The success was staggering. By the time Boeing rolled out the 737 MAX, Airbus had already built a commanding lead. While Boeing scrambled to re-engineer its jet, Airbus enjoyed years of head start. Today, Airbus's order book for the A320neo family is thousands of planes larger than Boeing's MAX orders. That's not just a gap. That's market dominance. In many ways, the A320neo family has become the default choice for airlines worldwide. What's more, Airbus isn't standing still. They've continued to innovate, offering variants like the A321XLR, an aircraft capable of flying transatlantic routes with single-aisle economics. This stretched model has proven so attractive that even airlines traditionally loyal to Boeing are signing up. For example, American Airlines, which has long relied on Boeing for its narrow-body fleet, has been one of the biggest customers for the A321XLR. That's a warning sign for Boeing. When your loyal customers look across the fence, you have a real problem. And Airbus isn't the only competitor. Enter China's COMAC C919. While this jet is still in its infancy, the long-term threat it represents cannot be ignored. Backed by Beijing and positioned as China's national airliner, the C919 is aimed directly at the 737 and A320 market. Although it doesn't yet match Western jets in performance or production scale, it has one major advantage: the full weight of China's political and financial support. In the long run, that means COMAC can undercut prices, push for large domestic orders, and gradually build credibility with global airlines. For Boeing, this creates a perfect storm. On one side, Airbus is pulling further ahead with a proven, popular, and expanding family of aircraft. On the other, China is preparing to chip away at the market from below, starting with domestic carriers and eventually targeting international ones. The risk for Boeing is being squeezed in the middle, losing high-value customers to Airbus while losing price-sensitive deals to COMAC. There's also the timing problem. Aircraft development is a marathon, not a sprint. By the time Boeing could launch and deliver a brand new 737 replacement, Airbus will likely be preparing the next upgrade cycle of its own. That means Boeing isn't just racing against Airbus's current products. It's racing against Airbus's future. The result is clear. Boeing no longer has the luxury of delay. The competition has never been fiercer, and the single-aisle market, the most profitable segment of commercial aviation, is slipping further from their grasp. If the company doesn't respond soon with something bold, the 737 could become less of a global leader and more of a historical icon, overtaken by rivals on every side. So, what exactly is Boeing planning to do about the 737's future? For years, the company has floated different concepts, but the most well-known was something called the New Midsize Airplane, or NMA. Sometimes nicknamed the 797 by aviation enthusiasts, this project was envisioned as a brand new jet to fill the gap between the largest single-aisle planes, like the 737 MAX 10, and the smallest wide bodies, like the 787 Dreamliner. The NMA was supposed to carry around 220 to 270 passengers and fly efficiently on routes of about 4,000 to 5,000 nautical miles. Think of transatlantic flights, U.S. coast-to-coast services, and high-density regional markets. Airlines loved the idea. It promised wide-body comfort with narrow-body economics. But despite all the interest, Boeing hit pause. Why? Because developing a new jet from scratch could cost upwards of $15 to $20 billion. And after the 737 MAX crisis and the pandemic, Boeing simply wasn't in a position to take on that kind of risk. Instead, the company shifted its short-term focus back to the 737 MAX, trying to restore confidence and get deliveries moving again. But everyone knows this is a temporary solution. The design of the 737, which dates back to the 1960s, has physical limits. You can only stretch, re-engine, and tweak an old airframe so much before it becomes uncompetitive. So, what's next? Boeing executives have hinted at a clean sheet design for the mid-2030s. This would be a completely new airplane, not just another update. Early concepts suggest a single-aisle aircraft with advanced composite materials to cut weight, ultra-efficient geared turbofan, or even open rotor engines, and cutting-edge aerodynamics, potentially even a truss-braced wing that offers higher lift and better fuel efficiency. The company is also looking at sustainability. With pressure to reduce carbon emissions, the next Boeing jet could be designed from day one, to burn less fuel and possibly integrate with future technologies like Sustainable Aviation Fuel (SAF) or even hybrid electric systems. In other words, Boeing's replacement for the 737 might not just compete with Airbus, it could redefine what a short and medium-haul jet is supposed to be. Still, the timeline is critical. If Boeing waits too long, Airbus will widen its lead and COMAC will catch up from below. But if Boeing moves too fast without solving its financial and technical challenges, it risks another disaster. The stakes couldn't be higher. Whatever Boeing builds next will shape the future of global aviation for decades.
For Boeing, building a new 737 replacement is not just about design and technology. It's about navigating one of the most complex challenges in modern aviation. How do you spend billions, take on enormous risks, and still convince airlines, regulators, and passengers that your aircraft is safe and worth the wait? The first challenge is money. Developing a brand new jet from scratch could cost between $15 and $25 billion. Boeing's financial position is still under pressure after the 737 MAX crisis, the pandemic, and delays with the 707X. Investors are cautious. Many on Wall Street would rather see Boeing focus on stability and paying down debt, not taking another massive gamble. But without that gamble, Boeing risks falling behind Airbus permanently. The second challenge is regulatory trust. The MAX crisis severely damaged Boeing's relationship with the FAA and international regulators. Any future aircraft will face extraordinary scrutiny. Certification could take longer and cost more than ever before. For Boeing, that means not only designing a safe aircraft, but also rebuilding trust with regulators and the flying public. The third challenge is market timing. Airbus is already enjoying enormous success with the A320neo family, and the A321XLR is proving to be a game changer. If Boeing takes too long to launch its replacement, airlines might commit to Airbus for the next decade. On the other hand, rushing into development without flawless execution could lead to another costly disaster. Then there's new competition. COMAC's C919 is only just starting, but with strong government backing, it could eventually claim a slice of the single-aisle market. In 20 years, Boeing might not just be competing with Airbus, but with China as well. That makes the replacement project not only a commercial decision, but also a geopolitical one. In short, Boeing is standing at a crossroads. The company must decide whether to invest in a bold, clean-sheet design that could restore its leadership, or risk fading into second place as Airbus and others dominate the skies. And this is where it gets truly fascinating. Whatever Boeing decides, it won't just impact the company. It will shape the routes we fly, the tickets we buy, and even the environmental footprint of global aviation. The future of travel depends on it. If you find aviation stories like this fascinating, don't miss what's coming next on our channel. We break down the biggest decisions in aviation, the battles between Boeing and Airbus, and the future of flight. Make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and join us as we explore the next chapter in aviation history.
The Boeing 737 is more than just an airplane. It's a symbol of modern aviation, a machine that carried billions of passengers and connected the world for over half a century. But every legend reaches a turning point. For Boeing, that turning point is now. Airbus is ahead with the A320neo and A321XLR. COMAC is building momentum with the C919. Airlines are demanding cleaner, quieter, and more efficient aircraft. The 737 MAX, no matter how many upgrades Boeing adds, cannot carry the company forever. That leaves Boeing with one choice: to go bold. The company must commit to a new, clean-sheet design, something that redefines the single-aisle jet, just as the original 737 once did. It won't be easy, it won't be cheap, and it certainly won't be risk-free. But history shows that the biggest breakthroughs in aviation always come from companies willing to take the leap. The question is simple, yet monumental. Can Boeing rise again and deliver the aircraft that airlines, passengers, and the world are waiting for? If you enjoyed this deep dive into Boeing's future, don't forget to like and comment video for more aviation insights, stories, and analysis. The sky is changing, and we'll be here to cover it.